Right friends, welcome back to editorials discussion of 16th February. There are 5 articles, 2 editorials and 3 articles, all of the Hindu. So, we are going to deliberate in detail about these articles today. The first one is with regard to ISRO. ISRO sets the bar high. That means they launched 104 satellites in one go. We are going to deliberate various aspects pertaining to ISRO. Not only this particular experiment, this particular launch, we are going to deliberate on other experiments also. And when you look at space technology, basically you should have clear idea about rockets or launch vehicles and satellites. Rockets or launch vehicles like PSLV, GSLV, these are rockets or launch vehicles, and they launch satellites into orbits. Basically, you should have clear understanding about 2 orbits. One is sun synchronous orbit, The second one is geosynchronous orbit. Geosynchronous orbit is basically revolving around Earth with the same speed as Earth rotates on its axis, and it takes almost 24 hours for completing one rotation. Similarly, geosynchronous or geostationary, these are the orbits where the satellites orbit around Earth taking 24 hours. That means they look stationary from a point on the Earth. So, geosynchronous or geostationary orbits, basically they are required for communication satellites. Your dish antenna is pointed towards some communication satellite. So, communication satellites looks fixed from particular point from Earth. So, let us leave this discussion here, and sun synchronous orbit, geosynchronous or geostationary orbits. So, the present day PSLV launch is into sun synchronous orbit, and geosynchronous orbit, that is normally launched with GSLV. That is you have clear idea about PSLV, GSLV, and the present day launch is basically into sun synchronous orbit. And if you look at various types of satellites, this INSAT series is communication satellites. What I talked about, this geosynchronous orbit or geostationary orbit, these communication satellites are launched in geosynchronous orbit. Then Cartosat, yesterday also, out of 104 satellites, one satellite belongs to Cartosat. It is basically for Earth observation. Cartosat is for Earth observation. Then IRNSS is navigation satellite, what we call GPS, and this IRNSS is a navigation satellite. And this is Chandrayaan, then Mars orbiter mission, these are exploration satellites for exploring moon or other Mars like objects, or you can say the other planets. Exploration is through exploration satellites, and education satellites like Satyabhama Sat and Swayam. So, these are various types of satellites. Let us come back to the present discussion. ISRO, all of you are familiar with ISRO, and Antrix is a commercial arm of ISRO. These things please do not forget. And yesterday's experiment or yesterday's launch is 104 satellites. It created history. Previous history was held by Russia with 37 satellites in a single mission. Previous record was by Russia with 37 satellites in a single mission, and the present satellites are 104 by PSLV C-37 into sun synchronous orbit. And this is PSLV's 38th successful mission, and total weight is 1378 kg, and most of these satellites are nano satellites. You may have a doubt, what is meant by nano satellite? When the satellite weight is 1 kg to 10 kg, it is classified as nano satellite, and most of the satellites are nano satellites, and out of 104 satellites, this Cartosat 2 satellite weighed 714 kg, and Cartosat satellite is basically for Earth observation. And at the same time, out of 104, 96 belongs to United States of America, and altogether 7 countries' satellites are involved in yesterday's launch, right. So, this is all about yesterday's launch, and if you look at the Space Commission or Department of Space is directly under the Prime Minister, and one Space Commission is also there. ISRO chairman is Space Commission chairman. Please do not forget the organizational hierarchy as far as Department of Space is concerned. Department of Space is directly under the Prime Minister, and ISRO is under Department of Space. ISRO's chairman is a Space Commission chairman. Please do not forget, right. Then if you look at what is the need for packing so many satellites, I would like to tell you 2 things. What is the need for packing so many satellites, and at the same time what are the challenges in launching 104 satellites in one go. So, what is the need? The need is nowadays more and more demand is coming up for small satellites. Now, Earth is being observed, pictures are being taken almost every inch, or you can say the pictures of Earth are taken quite frequently with the constellation of satellites, and most of these satellites are nano satellites of weight 1 kg to 10 kg, and a rocket launch is a costly affair. So, more and more nano satellites can be clubbed together, can be packed together with one rocket launch, so that the cost of satellites will come down. In future also, more and more educational institutions are also expected to have small satellites, and the future is going to be the era of small satellites, and to launch these small satellites, this 50 or 100 satellites are to be clubbed in one launch, right. I have given all the details here. Space based applications are increasing day by day, and demand for satellites is increasing. Number of rocket launches however remained limited. Rocket launch is a costly affair, and more nano satellites are to be clubbed together, and launching it is cost effective. So, packing of these satellites into one single rocket is justifiable, hence efficiency will increase, cost will come down. That is the ultimate purpose of packing them and launching. Then what are the complexities? The complexities are basically, actually here the satellites that can be loaded in a rocket, satellites and rockets, I explained you at the beginning. The satellites which can be loaded in the rocket are limited by the carrying capacity on one side, and on the other side it is limited by the space available, right. These two are the restrictive factors. And what are the complications? The biggest challenge is they have to be arranged in certain configuration so that they can be ejected in desired orbits. They have to be ejected one after the other. They should not collide one with the other, and within the specified time frame they have to be ejected, and there should be sufficient space in between the ejection of one satellite and other satellite. So, these are the complications. If you look at it, it should not disturb the flight of others. When you are launching 104 satellites, it should not disturb the flight of others. There should be sufficient gap. Yesterday, in almost a span of 10 to 12 minutes, all 104 satellites were ejected out of rocket. So, that has so many complications. It should not collide with other satellites. That means sufficient space is to be maintained, and it requires a lot of engineering innovation. It is not a simple affair. So, these are the challenges involved in launching these many satellites in sun synchronous orbit, right. Anyhow, India created the record with 104 satellites, and Planet Labs, I would like to tell a few points about Planet Labs. Out of 104 satellites which were launched yesterday, 88 belongs to San Francisco based company Planet Labs, and this company holds record of having more satellites in space than any other agency as per the news reports. And these satellites will together prepare a staggering 50 trillion pixel images every day, mapping every single inch of the planet. So, they are launching constellation of small satellites. Constellation of small satellites will take pictures of Earth in minute details. This is Planet Labs. This is the laboratory based in United States of America. Then Cartosat, yesterday's 104 include one Cartosat satellite, and it will produce high resolution images of Indian landmass for applications like rural and urban management, coastal land use and regulation. Right. So, this is about yesterday's launch, and you should have clear idea about sun synchronous orbit and geosynchronous orbit. And if you are not clear, we will deliberate about these two aspects with pictures in some other class as and when the opportunity comes with regard to space exploration. And before concluding this topic, I want you to throw some light on 3 experiments of ISRO. These are very important. If you look at from examination perspective, 3 experiments of ISRO in recent times. The first one is with regard to the present rockets are expendable and reusable rockets. The first experiment which was done by ISRO last year is with regard to reusable rockets. At present, the rockets are used only once. If the rocket is placing satellites into orbit, it has gone. Rocket cannot be used again. It has totally gone. That is why these present day rockets are called expendable rockets. And in future, reusable rockets are being planned. And recently, ISRO has conducted one experiment, that is RLVTD, reusable launch vehicle technology demonstrator. So, RLVTD experiment was conducted, and second experiment is with regard to using atmospheric oxygen as oxidizer. So, if you look at these 2 experiments, first experiment is reusable launch vehicle technology demonstrator. This is the baby step, or you can say the first step in the process of making reusable rockets. At present, the rockets are expendable. Expendable means they are used only once. In future, if this becomes a reality, rockets can be used number of times. They place satellites into orbit and they will come back, again take satellites. So, this RLVTD experiment is in that direction. This is a reusable launch vehicle technology demonstrator. If you look at the second experiment which was conducted recently by ISRO, SCRAMJET engine experiment. SCRAMJET engine experiment is basically taking atmospheric oxygen. All of you are familiar with rockets. Rockets will have both the fuel and oxidizer. Fuel as well as oxidizer, and this SCRAMJET engine experiment which was conducted recently, that means last year, is with regard to usage of atmospheric oxygen. During its run in the atmospheric phase, it will use atmospheric oxygen. Instead of carrying oxygen, directly it will use atmospheric oxygen, and this is known as air breathing propulsion system. So, this is the second experiment one should have clear idea about. Third one is cryogenic engine. This is in the news. So, this is the third experiment. Cryogenic engine means using liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. When liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen are used, basically the mass flow of fuel will increase. When mass flow of fuel is increased, then it gives more thrust. When it gives more thrust, it can carry satellites of higher weight. At present, our GSLV can carry up to around 2200 kg satellites, because the other important point is our communication satellites are 4000 kg weight. So, we do not have capability to launch these satellites as on date. That is why we are launching 4000 kg communication satellites from French Guiana, or you can say Kourou Space Station, French Guiana. So, this cryogenic engine technology makes a reality, then we may be able to launch 4000 kg satellites, because it gives more thrust. The fuel used will be in liquid state. So, these three experiments of ISRO very important, and yesterday's we discussed in detail. Let us move on to the next topic. This is with regard to poor air quality. All of you are familiar with Indian conditions. The air quality is too poor. PM 2.5, particulate matter 2.5, that means the particles of size less than 2.5 micrometers or 10 power minus 6 meters, they are increasing, and after Diwali in Delhi, they reached almost 800 micrograms per cubic meter, 900 micrograms per cubic meter, whereas the acceptable level is just 60, right. So, this article is about one international report. The international report stated that PM 2.5 levels are increasing in our country. PM 2.5 is increasing in our country because of PM 2.5. They will go deep into the lungs, and human beings are susceptible for several diseases. And it is incidental to note, every year because of air pollution, 11 lakh people in our country lose lives. 11 lakh lives are lost because of air pollution, and we are going to overtake China. China is the country with one of the highest air pollutions, and we are going to overtake China as far as deaths are concerned. And South Asia, dominated by India, is the worst region in the world to live. And as per this article, major problem cited as per editorial is burning of crop residues is causing severe pollution across northern part of the country. Here what happens? After rice, farmers cultivate wheat. After rice, farmers cultivate wheat in some states of northern part of the country, and without waiting much, normally what they do, they immediately burn the crop residue. The burning of crop residue is causing lot of pollution in winter months in northern part of the country. So, this editorial stresses about that point. Here I have written, what is the need of the hour? There are several other aspects also with regard to air pollution. So, in addition to the crop residue, burning of crop residue, what is to be done? I have listed out here. First and the foremost is built up areas. This construction and demolition waste is causing lot of pollution. In urban areas, construction and demolition waste is causing lot of pollution, and burning of biomass, especially this cow dung and farm litter for the cooking purposes, is causing a lot of pollution. Basically, it is leading to indoor air pollution, and several women are losing their lives in rural parts of the country. Then older diesel vehicles are to be banned, because this particulate matter 2.5 is released mostly from older diesel vehicles in comparison to newer vehicles or petrol vehicles. Then switching over to BS6, it is in the right direction. Government stated BS6 will be implemented from 1st April 2020, and that has to be expedited. and people should be encouraged to use public transportation. As I have already told you, burning of agricultural residue must be controlled. Then urban areas must be greened in a mission mode, because it absorbs a lot of carbon dioxide if the areas are greened. Then greening of national highways and state highways should be undertaken on topmost priority. So, these are some points I listed out with regard to controlling air pollution, and India is worst affected, and it is one of the worst affected countries because of air pollution. Look at the next one. This is with regard to electoral reforms. This is written by Yogendra Yadav, and here he pointed out 4 points. He is talking about in the budget talked about electoral reforms and nothing new, and as per this article, the devil is in the fine print. If you read it in detail, actually no concrete proposal which will stem corruption in political parties is there in budget. That is as per this article, and there are 4 issues. 4 issues are put forth. 2 important issues are there. One issue is ceiling of rupees 2000 on cash donations to political parties, and the second one is with regard to electoral bonds, and this article is quite critical about these 2 aspects. One is ceiling of rupees 2000 on cash donations. Here previous limit was rupees 20,000. Now it is reduced to rupees 2,000, right. So, this is one aspect, but after reading various documents, the author says that existing limit of rupees 20,000 on anonymous donations as per section 23 of the Representation of People Act has been left untouched, though the cash donations are reduced to 2,000 limit from 20,000, but if you read the proposal, existing limit of rupees 20,000 on anonymous donations. These donations can be given through digital means or through checks from rupees 20,000, from rupees 2,000 to 20,000. They can be given in either digital means or through checks, but the anonymity up to 20,000 is left untouched. So, up to 20,000 this anonymity is left untouched, only they have to make the names public above 20,000. Though the cash donation is reduced to 2,000, but as per this article, whoever are donating up to rupees 20,000 need not be made public. Then the minister has proposed a new clause that limits cash donation, as I have already told you, and as usual there is no requirement to disclose contributions up to 20,000. Though the cash donation is limited to 2,000, but the clause pertaining to no requirement of disclosure up to 20,000 is left untouched. So, there will not be any limit on how much a party can receive on anonymous donations. So, there is no reform at all as per this article. Second point is political parties would be entitled to receive donations by check or digital mode from their donors. In the wording is very important. The wording says entitled, but as per the author it should be required. It should be mandated, right. So, this is second point. Third point is every political party have to file income tax returns within the specified time limit in order to enjoy the exemption from payment of income tax. Accordingly, a clause was introduced in finance bill, and as per that it explicitly says that the returns should be filed within the stipulated time limit. Actually, this amendment is not required provided government is enforcing existing law, right. As per the author, the point number 1 what I have discussed, if you read it in fine print, then up to 20,000 it will still be anonymous. Look at the fourth one, this is electoral bonds. Of course, it is too early to comment at this stage, because all the details pertaining to electoral bonds are yet to be framed, but the author says that electoral bonds will benefit political parties. I have given all the details. The author says electoral bonds will benefit political parties, and in my opinion, the details of electoral bonds are yet to be made public by the government, and if you want to read whatever is mentioned in this article, I have given here in various comments, in various points, and as per the article I have listed out here. But as the details are yet to be announced, it is too premature to comment about electoral bonds, right. So, this article is about electoral reforms as announced in the budget. Everything will be made known when the details with regard to electoral bonds are released by the government. And the first point of limiting up to rupees 2000 cash donations, in fact that can be made advantageous to the political parties, and there is nothing much in fact in that 2000 limit. Look into the next article, planning for the people. This article is quite critical about urban planning. All of you are familiar with 74th amendment to the Constitution of 1990s. 74th amendment to the Constitution basically stipulates self-government to the urban local bodies. Urban local bodies should have more say in designing various cities, and people's participation must be increased. But what is being happened during the past 20 years, state government is stipulating the terms and nothing much is happening at ground level, because of which our cities as on date are poorly planned. This article is with regard to poor planning of our cities, and 74th amendment to the Constitution must be implemented in true letter and spirit. I have listed various points here. Poor urban planning as per 74th constitutional amendment, it sought to empower urban local bodies to function them as institutions of self-government. Lot many powers are given as per 74th constitutional amendment, and urban planning regulation of land use, planning of economic and social development, in fact how the land is to be used, then economic and social development, these are all listed in 12th schedule of the Constitution. This 12th schedule of the Constitution is basically expected to be the domain of municipal corporations. And municipal corporations, or you can say urban local bodies in our country, are not allowed to work freely, and state government is imposing lot many terms on urban local bodies. That is the crux of the article. So, as per 74th amendment, cities above 10 lakh population, for the cities above 10 lakh population, metropolitan planning committees is mandatory, and which will integrate plans prepared by local bodies within metropolitan area. And for the cities of population above 3 lakh, ward committees are to be set up. Basically, they will look at municipal functions, and in the year 1996, Union government issued model regional and town planning and development law, but state governments are not bothered to frame their rules, basically the rules to be governed by municipal bodies. Then the planning process is with the top down approach, that means a draft law is prepared, and for the name's sake it is kept in the public domain, and people's participation is not up to the mark. Then the next point is, it is disconnected from the institutions of local democracy, and Town and Country Planning Act is age old practice, and it is not reflecting the present day requirement of designing master plans with the transport, water and energy networks. So, overall this article talks about poor urban planning. Whatever the points I have listed out here will be useful when someone talks about what ails our urban strategy or urban planning. Hence, with the spirit of local democracy, multiple sectors are to be integrated in the town planning. Basically, more and more powers are to be given to the urban local bodies. People's participation must be taken into consideration. Third thing is, metropolitan areas must be planned in such a way to take care of future generations, and the integrated plans must take note of transport, water and energy networks. Right. So, this is all about this article, and look at the last one. Time to break in India. This talks about patents. Before understanding patents, you should have clear idea about what is meant by intellectual property. Quite often in newspapers, we come across intellectual property. What is the meaning of intellectual property? Intellectual property is basically creation of mind. If something is created by your mind, then you should have right to use it for some time. So, that is the basic concept of intellectual property. Here, intellectual property is the creation of mind, such as innovations, literary and artistic works, designs, symbols, names and images used in commerce. Across the world, these intellectual property rights are protected by Patents Acts, Copyrights Acts, Trademarks Acts. So, here patents, what is meant by patent? You have invented something. If you have invented some phone which can be used with minimum charging for number of days, then it is your new invention. It should be protected against copying for some time because you are the inventor of that. So, that is a patent right. Copyright means you have created some film, you have created some painting, you should have sufficient right over that property, that is copyright. Then trademark. Trademarks means logos. One particular company will have particular logo, no one else should copy it. So, this is protected under Trademarks Act. So, patents, copyrights, trademarks, these are all comes under intellectual property, and do not forget these are creations of mind. When you are creating something, you should have right for usage of that for particular time. Then here regulatory agencies in our country, most of this intellectual property is regulated in our country by Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks. Please do not forget, for this Patents Act, Designs Act, Trademarks Act, Geographical Indication Act. Geographical Indication Act means Nagpur oranges, Kanchipuram saris. These are all examples of Geographical Indications Act, and for all these things, this Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks under Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion is the nodal authority. Let us come back to the article. The main issue here is, recently US Chamber of Commerce rankings, India was ranked 43rd out of a total of 45 countries, and as per this article, there are several methodical flaws in the ranking, and the report shames countries as if they are children of less creative God. So, this article is quite critical about patents, and the article says we created and we are the leader in generics industry in pharmaceuticals, generic pharmaceuticals industry, and the famous innovators like Elon Musk are not bothering about patents. Instead of patents, people should be rewarded for innovation in the form of prizes. So, that is the crux of this article. In pharmaceuticals, we have broken multinational intellectual property, and that yielded world class generic industry. Our generic medicines are going to several countries, and basically our generic medicines are lifeline to several African countries. And India should break the intellectual property paradigm which protects IP and technological information as if it is their property. And here, while granting patents, basically they are mostly subjective, not based on objective facts. most of these are subjective, not based on objective facts, and the invention is superior to the one or not is basically based on subjective facts. So, patents breed uncertainty, and some of the best minds in the technology space now giving up patents. This article is quite critical about patents, because there is lot of subjectivity in the patents and objectivity is not there. Evergreening of patents is taking place. With small changes, people are extending the patents. Because of all things, this is critical about the patents, and we should think about alternative innovation mechanisms such as prices as well as open source formats, most similar to what we did in smartphones. This is all about this article. Right friends, we discussed quite important articles today, and we came to end of this newspaper editorial discussion, and please do join at 12 o'clock for a comprehension discussion, and again editorial discussion tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Have a nice day. Thank you.